Welcome to the Right Hand Roadmap, the podcast for seconds in command of founder-led companies. I'm your host, Megan Long, owner of Second First. In each episode, we show you the path to success on your journey as the #2 leader in entrepreneurial companies. I am so happy you are here, and welcome to the third quarterly Q&A of 2024. Each quarter, we do a question and answer episode answering listener-submitted questions. You have a few options to submit a question for our next episode like this. You can either visit secondfirst.com/podcast to find the submission box. Or you can also email your question to podcast@secondfirst.com. If your question is chosen for a podcast Q&A, it'll be read anonymously. If your question is not chosen, we still reply privately with our advice or suggested resources to every single submission. And then you all know the drill to make legal happy, so I do have to give a disclaimer that this episode is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered legal or professional advice. And we're not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that arise from the use of this podcast, and the views expressed in this episode may not be those of the host or management. All right, let's dig in. First question. Hi, Megan. I messaged you on Instagram. Our Instagram is @yoursecondfirst, by the way. I messaged you on Instagram a while back, but wanted to shoot a similar question over for the podcast. My CEO/founder is not the typical entrepreneur you talk about. He's not a typical visionary, hates being in the spotlight, and I mean this kindly, is not innovative. He likes to be comfortable. While I love your trainings, I'm struggling to figure out how to apply them to my situation when I'm the one coming up with the ideas, vision, and growth strategy. Okay, there are two things here that are true. One, there are a lot of entrepreneurs that have what I'll call lifestyle businesses. They started a company, they grew it to the point where it produced a level of income they were comfortable with and a lifestyle that they desired, and they're fine with coasting from there. There is nothing wrong with this. There are many business owners out there that have gone through the stress and grind of growing a business and feel very been there, done that, not for me anymore. They're just no longer in a place where they want to take on more risk. The second thing that I noticed in your description is if you go all the way back to episode 1, or if you read the 2006 Harvard Business Review article, Second in Command, the Misunderstood Role of the Chief Operating Officer, there are 7 distinct types of second in command, one of them being the other half. I like to call this the puzzle piece, and the COO is there to fill the gaps. So to be strong in areas that the CEO is weak and to get energy out of the work that the CEO does not get energy out of. And while we most often talk about the stereotypical entrepreneur being fast-paced, loud, charismatic, idea-generating, that's not always the case. There are CEOs out there that are technical experts. They started a business in an area that they were an expert in without giving much thought or not wanting to get very involved in marketing, sales, being on stages. They're just not interested. So they want to just keep being the best at what they do and believe that the product or service will speak for itself. If you are finding that you, as the other half, are fitting into more of that visionary CEO role, then a lot of these same tools and strategies are going to apply. You just get to use them yourself without having to walk a CEO through them. So for example, you can capture your ideas and prioritize them with your founder. So you still prioritize things together. You're just going to be the one populating what you are discussing. The tweak here is that you never want to sell your CEO on something. Your job is to help them understand both the upside and the risk of every idea so that they can feel comfortable and educated in what they are agreeing to pursue. Okay, question number 2. If you could recommend 3 must-read business books, what would they be? Okay, I'm going to be difficult because there are some books that I don't think you have to read, just be aware of the main idea. Like Dan Sullivan's 10x is easier than 2x. I love the message and the idea, but I also 100% believe you can just kind of get the general concept from Cliff Notes and then it'll have the same impact. I feel this way with a lot of like Adam Grant books, even Atomic Habits. I think as long as you know the gist, it's going to impact your decision making. I'm sure one day I will write a book that will be like 350 or 400 pages and I'll be eating my words. But I firmly believe that 90% of business books could be 90 pages and have the exact same impact. So what books do I actually love and recommend? I don't think you understand how hard of a question this is for me because I am such a reader, but I'll share 3 maybe lesser known books. How about that? The first one is called No Bullshit Strategy by Alex M.H. Smith. So the biggest frustration that our coaching clients have. So these are all seconds in command, COOs, director of operations, title doesn't matter. They are second in command to an entrepreneur. The biggest common frustration they have is they do not have a clear, distinct strategy from their CEO. So this book is one that we often recommend to hand off to the entrepreneur or work through it together. It's insanely helpful in crafting a real strategy, not just, well, we're going to be the best, right? I feel like a lot of quote business strategies are superlatives, not strategy. So the other thing is it's very short. So I definitely recommend that one. Number 2, I will recommend The Power of Moments by Chip and Dan Heath. And this was given to me by a sales coach years ago, and then we read it in my book club recently, and it's fantastic. And then third is Never Lose a Customer Again by Joey Coleman. This book I read pretty early on in my leadership career, but it completely changed how I view sales and onboarding especially. So I used to have my sales team read this book and Giftology by John Ruhlin during their onboarding to understand how to really give a white glove, next level experience when bringing on new clients. So there's 3 to add to your Kindle list. All right, we're doing 3 today to keep it short and sweet. We recently hired someone onto our leadership team. They came highly recommended, interviewed really well, and we all loved him. He's been here for 2 months, and I'm starting to think we made a mistake, but we just gave him so much sensitive information at the leadership table. I had a review with him, and he essentially said it's our fault because we didn't give him direction. We hired him because of his experience. My argument is he should know what to do. Okay, so we were just talking about books. There's a book called The First 90 Days by Michael Watkins. I'll link it in the show notes, but it's essentially a playbook for managers or leaders to get up to speed faster and smarter. But something that I personally coach Seconds in Command on is creating an actual detailed 90-day onboarding plan for new leaders. If you don't, one of 2 things will happen. The first is what sounds like you're experiencing, where the new leader or manager feels kind of aimless. They don't know what priorities are. They don't have a clear direction. They haven't been part of your leadership meetings, so they don't know what's been discussed in the past. They don't have that burden of knowledge, and they just aren't clear on what your expectations are. If you don't know expectations, how can you meet them? The second pitfall, if you don't have a very clear 90-day onboarding plan, is that some leaders will come in way too hot, to prove themselves. So they immediately start making changes. They are like a bull in a china shop in your company to try and make a name for themselves, but they end up breaking things, or they end up making a really bad reputation for themselves just because they don't know. You said that this new leader has been there for 2 months. So that's not too much time to have passed to actually like hit the reset button and put together, let's say, like a 60-day plan at this point. You probably did make the right hire. It's just all in how you onboard them. I love these Q&As so much. Please remember to submit any questions you have either on the website or at podcast@secondfirst.com. To find show notes and links to anything mentioned in this episode, visit secondfirst.com/22. Be sure to subscribe to catch future episodes and leave us a review on whatever platform you're listening on. Remember, you don't have to navigate being a second in command alone when you have the right hand roadmap.